Here we go. All right, Joe Beningo, back with you on the Oh the Pain podcast, Monday, March 21st, 2022. The Joe Beningo Oh the Pain podcast is brought to you by Beach Camera, Hackensack Brewing Company, KZ Sports Marketing, and Anita Discount Tire. And before I start the show, a lot of people have been asking how they can sponsor our podcast. All you got to do is go to my website, ohthepainpodcast.com, click on the sponsors tab, and you can fill out the form and we'll get back to you. So we appreciate all the love and excitement that comes with our wonderful podcast. And speaking of excitement, love, excitement, and all of that, my good buddy from the New York Post does a great job covering the woebegone franchise that is the New York Jets, and that's Brian Costello. Brian, how are you, bro?
Great, Joe. Great to be with you. I'm looking at all the Jets memorabilia behind you. Lots of good memories back there. You don't have the pain isn't behind you. The good memories seem to be up on the wall.
Yeah, well, that's we don't put the bad memories up on the wall. I wouldn't have it. Let me just put it this way, Brian. If I did put all the bad memories up, I'd have no wall space left. It would be pretty difficult to do. There's no doubt about it. All right, let's start with this. We'll break down the free agency a little bit here, what the Jets did. Really, I tell you, I got to like what they did. And I start with this because one of the things I thought was the key was bringing back Braxton Berrios. I was very concerned that they weren't going to do it. I think if it was the previous regime with the terrible Mike Maccagnan, we all killed John Idzik, but Mike Maccagnan was probably worse than Idzik. I don't know if they would have re-signed Berrios. To me, that was a tremendous re-signing. He's a very good player for this team.
Yeah, he's a good player, Joe. And, I think his agent, the famous Drew Rosenhaus, was in the beginning of the offseason was talking about $10 million a year. I like Braxton Berrios. He's not $10 million a year, though. So I think the Jets were smart and they waited. They said, all right, go see what you can get, and he obviously at the combine, they're talking, agents and teams are talking, and he couldn't get that. But I think the Jets kind of met him a little bit higher than they wanted to go. I had heard early in the offseason they were looking at $5 million a year for him. They ended up at $6 million. So I think they budged, which they had to do. They need to keep the player. So I think everyone's happy. I mean, the thing that stood out to me, Joe, about Berrios, and this was almost from the start of training camp last year, was the chemistry between him and Zach Wilson. That was the guy Zach clicked with better than anyone. And at the time, we weren't thinking Berrios would have much of a role as a receiver. He'd be a returner. But every day in training camp, you're like, man, Berrios catches everything. Like it's all every day. That's the guy he's going to, and he's I think he can have a bigger role on this team. We'll see what else they do at wide receiver. They could draft one, but I think that was a key signing for them. I agree with you.
Hey, look, I don't see any reason why, Brian, you can't put him in the slot. He can't be a Julian Edelman, Wes Welker type player. I mean, that's I don't see any reason why that can't be.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the new setup means for Elijah Moore, right, Joe? Because Elijah Moore played slot at Ole Miss, and then he wasn't slot last year because they had Crowder. Do they now, Crowder's going to be gone. Do they want to slide more into the slot more, or do they feel like, hey, he was pretty good outside, we'll keep him outside and put Berrios in the slot? Do they mix and match? They also signed 2 tight ends, Joe, which is going to affect how many receivers you use, right? If this is going to mean more 2 tight end sets, which is one less receiver on the field. So it's going to be interesting to see how they make the puzzle pieces fit. And as we know, Joe, we can sit here in March and talk about all these players. In October, some of them are going to be hurt and you're going to have to figure it out. And so I think that gives them some flexibility there.
Yeah, no, you got to like the 2 tight ends they signed. There's no question about it. But maybe even the one I like even better is this lineman Tomlinson. I mean, from San Francisco, the guy's played 80 straight games. That worries me a little, Brian. I got to tell you, anytime I hear a guy who's played 80 consecutive games for somebody else, now he's coming to my team.
Yeah,
memories of Carl Lawson come into my head from last year. But
how about CJ Mosley, Joe? CJ Mosley, I don't think he missed a game in Baltimore.
That's right, and he misses 2 years for our team. Of course he did.
Yeah, no, I like Tomlinson a lot. Pro Bowler last year. Obviously, he knows the offense inside and out for being in San Francisco. This, Joe Douglas, the results aren't there, right? That he's won 6 games in 2 years. He can't say he's done a great job or anything like that, but what I will say is he came in June of 2019. This offensive line was a mess. It was a mess. And he said, we're going to build the line. And he has put his effort toward that. We'll see what happens with Mekhi Becton. They took Elijah Vera Tucker looks really good. George Fant turned out to be a pretty good signing. I think Connor McGovern is a serviceable starter, and now he gets Tomlinson. The line is better now than when Joe Douglas took over, and he's actually, not every move's going to work, but he's trying. There was 10 years here, Joe, where they didn't do anything on the line. Vlad Dukas was a second-round pick in 2010. Which but then they didn't take another lineman in the first two rounds. Mekhi Becton was the first round pick on the line since Brick and Nick. So you gotta invest in that. So Douglas has tried, and like I said, I don't know if Becton's gonna work out, but I like Tomlinson. I think this line is better. And they should. It's gonna help. It's gonna help Zach Wilson. I mean, that right guard spot was the weak link last year on this line. Greg Van Roten was not very good. They brought in Duvernay Tardif from Kansas City, who played better, but I think this line is now pretty solid.
I'm concerned about Becton, Brian. I got to tell you, we talked off the air about this. Look, he looked when he played his rookie year, he certainly looked very good, and then he gets hurt. Last year, he basically misses the whole year. He gets hurt in the first game of the season, doesn't play the rest of the way. I got to tell you, I'm worried about this guy. What's your thoughts on Becton right now?
Yeah, I don't think you're alone, Joe. I think everyone inside the Jets organization is worried. I don't think they've gotten to the point where they said, okay, it's over, right? This is the year. This is it, right? Like, they want to see what he looks like when he comes back in April. And is he taking this serious? I think, some of the things he hasn't really been a professional so far. He hasn't really embraced the things you have to be an NFL player. And he's got to do that. You can't blame him for the injury that happened. He got rolled up on. But some of the other stuff, they weren't happy with him before that injury. I think some people forget.
Right.
Mike LaFleur on the record in a press conference called him out pretty much when we were in Green Bay, which never happens. And I wasn't even sure he was going to be the week one starter last year, Joe. I thought they were like what I was seeing in practice. I thought they might start him on the bench. So this is a big year. This is it. I think if he comes back and he shows he can be a professional and he can show some durability, the ability is there. We saw that as a rookie, right? Like when you said, when he was on the field, he was impressive. So now he just kind of has to be a pro. I like what they're doing too. It's saying, hey, the left tackle job's not his. He's going to have to earn that. That's going to light a fire under him, and I like that Saleh said that at the Senior Bowl.
Well, right now, if he is playing, and again, we're talking to Brian Costello of the New York Post, does a great job covering the Jets. Right now, you got to believe Fant's the left tackle, right? And they're going to try to play Becton on the right side, I would believe, right?
I think they'll play them at both through the spring and then figure it out in the summer. Look, in 2 years ago when Becton was drafted, they moved Fant to the right side. When they signed Fant, originally Fant was supposed to play left tackle. They draft back in Fant to right. So that was the plan. Was Becton was going to be your left tackle. Fant was going to be the right. So I think they'll probably move them back and forth this year. The only thing, I don't know how much experience Becton has playing right tackle, Joe, ever. Fant has played right tackle, so he knows the position a little bit better. I also don't think it's as much as it used to be. The left tackle is way more important than the right tackle, the blind side that used to be. People, defense is adjusted. Von Miller is going to line up over right tackle if they think the right tackle is the worst guy on the field. They move those guys around, those pass rushers. So, but yeah, I think it'll probably start out as Fant at left tackle and Becton at right, but I think they'll give him every opportunity to win the job at left tackle.
Any chance they re-sign Morgan Moses? Is that a possibility?
No, Morgan signed with the Ravens, Joe.
He did. I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, I think they were interested. But I just didn't think it was going to work because Morgan could go somewhere where he could actually have a chance to start. Yeah, he got 3 years, $15 million from the Ravens, I think.
While we're talking about the offensive line, I've said this. I'm on record of saying this, that I would not, with that fourth pick in the draft, I wouldn't be upset with them if one of these big offensive tackles, the guy from NC State or the kid from Alabama was there. I wouldn't be upset with them taking him. But you don't think that's happening, right? Even though they're concerned about Becton.
It could, Joe. Here's how I feel about the draft right now. And I think Joe Douglas did a good job last week in free agency setting himself up for the draft. There isn't a must right now at number 4, right? He signs a cornerback. So now you don't say, oh, God, they got to draft a cornerback. They still could draft a cornerback.
Right, sure.
He signs a safety. So now you don't say, they got to take the kid out of Notre Dame. I know you don't want them to, but some people.
Please, no.
He doesn't have to. He still could. He signs Tomlinson. Because remember, those guys are tackles, but we thought for the Jets they'd play guard in the first year. He signs Tomlinson. So now you say, okay, he could still take a tackle, but he doesn't have to. He did a good job in that regard. That he's now he can sort of sit there at 4 and go, all right, who is the best player at number 4 that I can take and take him? And, the best player available thing's a cliche, but he's really put himself in position to do that, where they don't have that glaring hole. And even edge rusher, he didn't address that, but Carl Lawson is expected to come back. So they do have one at least. So to me at 4, Joe, you're looking at, the Kayvon Thibodeau kid from Oregon, the pass rusher. There's a lot of questions there, right? This kid was supposed to be number 1 overall, all we heard last year. And all of a sudden now, you hear about work ethic. You hear he takes plays off. The other thing I've heard is the competition in the Pac-12 is so bad. Like he's not facing any tackles who are going to be in the NFL. So how do you judge him on that? So, there's a lot of smoke there. So I'm not sure he's going to end up going number 4 overall. But there's a lot of different ways Douglas can go there right now.
I love the center from Iowa, Liederbach. Now, and
you and
Jets, to me, I don't love McGovern. I know he got hurt. He played pretty decent last year. He got hurt toward the end of the year. I don't really love him. This guy, I don't want to use the word generational talent, because every time I hear that word, I think of Saquon Barkley. How'd that work out? So, I don't think the Giants are too happy. That pick was a disaster for them a couple of years ago with the second pick in the draft. No way they take him at 4. Maybe they would take him at 10. Is that reasonable?
Yeah. No way at 4. I don't think you take a center at 4, but yeah, possibly a 10. That could be in play. I think they're okay with McGovern. I put it like, they'll live with McGovern if that's how this shakes out. But I also think if they see a chance to upgrade, they'll do it. And look, like we talked about, Douglas loves the offensive line. Like he's not going to stop adding to the offensive line. So if they love the kid from Iowa as much as you do, I could see it happening.
Let's get back. I want to get back. We'll get back to the draft again in a second, but I want to get back to a couple of these free agent guys. The 2 guys in the secondary, Reed and Whitehead. Your thoughts? I didn't know a lot about. I got to be honest, didn't know a lot about them. Obviously, they were both starters last year for their respective teams. Whitehead played for a pretty good team in Tampa.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on these 2 guys?
Yeah, I saw more of Whitehead, Joe, just because I watched more Tampa games than Seattle games in the last couple of years, and obviously he was part of that defense. And I watched that defense closely because of Todd Bowles, and he was a key piece for them. He's a good player, and he's young. So I think that was a nice move for them. He's more of a, he's not a free safety. He's not going to be back in the middle of the field playing center field. He's more down in the box, that kind of thing. But he's a hard hitter. I think he's a good addition for them. And then Reed is an interesting guy. I didn't know a lot about him either, Joe. But he had a career year last year. He had a really good year. And I don't know how much you buy into the Pro Football Focus stuff, but they rated him as the 8th best cornerback in the NFL last year. Which,
wow.
Yeah. And his numbers, his coverage numbers are really impressive. He did not give up many completions. And if you get into all the analytics, he's a darling of the analytics of expected completion percentage. He started on the left side in Seattle and was struggling. They moved to the right side and he played better. And I read a quote from Pete Carroll, because to me, it's like, if you play cornerback on one side, you play on the other, right? But Pete Carroll said some people are right-handed. Some people can only play on one side. And so he plays, so he's going to be on the right side for the Jets. He knows Saleh. He was in San Francisco, so he knows the defense. And Seattle still runs a similar version of the defense that Saleh runs. So, I think if you look at some of these guys, they don't have long track records, Joe, but they had great years in 2021. I think Douglas is gambling that, okay, this is a 25-year-old player where it clicked last year. Let's go get him and see if we can get 3 good years out of him. Some of the other guys, the same thing. That the tight end Tyler Conklin is kind of the same kind of guy. He had a really good year last year. So clearly that was part of the plan. But I like it. If they had to do something at cornerback, Bryce Hall and Brendan Eccles did okay last year, but you don't want to live with those guys as your starters forever. They don't get enough interceptions, especially Hall does not get his hands on the football enough. So, we'll see if Reed and Whitehead can bolster this secondary, which was, I think they were 30th in the NFL last year, 7 interceptions, only 5 in the secondary, Joe. Because remember, John Franklin Myers and Shaq Lawson had interceptions. 5 interceptions by the secondary.
They won both of those games too.
Yes, they did. But you got to start affecting the football more in the secondary. I think this will help a lot.
Well, turnovers, you and I, we talked about it. I talked about it when I was still, doing radio. it seems like the Jets have been terrible in takeaways for a long time on defense. That's something that's got to really change if they're going to be an effective defensive football team.
Yeah, well, remember, like I think it was last year, the first interception was that one against Cincinnati, and you're talking.
By
I think
Lawson.
that was Halloween.
Yeah,
right. So you're 2 months
right.
into the season, and you don't have an interception. So that's crazy, So they have to start turning the ball over more.
Let's go back a little bit to free agency again. Brian Costello with a post. My old buddy for many years on our show doing the midday shows.
I miss you, Joe.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, bro. I really do. A couple other guys that they re-signed. I'm really happy with the Tevin Coleman, bringing him back. I thought he was a solid player for them, real pro, good player. And even bringing Joe Flacco back as the backup, I think, is a good move, Brian.
Yeah. Coleman was good when he was out there. Remember, he had the big kick return in London. And he's got some speed. Like he's still fast. With Coleman, it's a matter of him staying on the field. He struggles to stay on the field. Got to keep him healthy, which we can talk about that for hours, Joe. That's the song of the Jets right now is keep guys healthy.
No question.
Yeah, Flacco's funny, Joe, because we as I say, like the beat reporters, we must have asked them 100 times last year why they didn't have a veteran backup quarterback in the offseason. And they were defiant on the record, off the record. They basically acted like we were idiots for like thinking that had any value. Now, all of a sudden, they trade for Flacco in the middle of the year. Now they're bringing him back. I agree with it because I thought they should have had a veteran there all along. Sure. Mike White did great in his brief star turn there, but it helps. It helps a guy, learn how to watch film. It helps him through things. Like Flacco's seen everything. So Zach Wilson can say, hey, what about this situation? And Flacco can say, oh, yeah, in 2013, we did this. Like, so it's just helpful to have a guy like that there. And you can say, well, that's what coaches are for. But, the coach is kind of like your boss. You don't always feel comfortable asking questions of your coach to show you don't know something. Flacco is just another guy. It's another coworker. You can ask him things. I think that's valuable for a young quarterback to have that outlet. So I like that signing, Joe, a lot.
And they brought Mike White back, which is very strange to me. I mean, look, I didn't think Mike White got a fair shake last year. He had that great game against Cincinnati. Even the Colt game, he started a Colt game. He had a nice touchdown drive. He threw a touchdown pass. I think he actually got hurt on that touchdown pass he threw. Yep. And then, he played against Buffalo. And to me, the cards were kind of stacked against him in that game against the Bills. So, but they brought him back. I'm actually surprised.
Yeah, well, I mean, Joe, it's $2.5 million, I think it is. So, he's a restricted free agent still. So they can sign him to that. And then if another team wants him, they can make him an offer. And the Jets would get a 5th-round pick if he signed with somebody else. So he still could go somewhere else. But yeah, I think he's worth hanging on to. Obviously, he showed a lot of potential in the Cincinnati game. And I think it's good to have 3. You have the starter, the veteran, and then you have a guy you're bringing along as a development guy that, maybe can be, maybe he can be a long-term backup at worst, down the road.
All right, so let's go back to the draft. So what do you think they're going to do with the draft here? 4 and 10 in the first round. They got 2 high picks in the second round as well. I forget what the exact number is over the first 3 rounds, but
four in the top 38, I think it is, Joe. Yeah, okay. I mean, I think it's going to be offense, defense in the first round. I think you get 1 of each. I'm not sure which order. I still think like edge rusher is still a big need to me, right? And we've talked about that since John Abraham left town.
Yep.
I just don't know what the deal is with Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't know. Like I am not, I'm not a scout, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But if he makes a lot of sense if he checks all the boxes and you don't have any concerns about him. So I go, I think edge rusher could be the 4 pick. Receiver is obviously in play at 10. I still think they need to add another receiver. Corey Davis is not going to be here forever. He's kind of
got hurt too. He missed the last 8 games of the year.
And he'll probably be here this year and probably be gone after that. So they need to draft a long-term number 1 receiver. He's not number 1 either, Joe. He's a number 2. Right. They need a number 1 receiver that they can develop. I think with Santana Moss is the last guy they drafted in the first round at that position. So it's been a while. So I can see receiver there. And then, offensive line, like we talked about, it's always in play. I think cornerback is still in play with Sauce Gardner at 10. I don't think they would take Stingley because of the injury history.
Stingley's the kid from Auburn, right?
From LSU.
Oh, LSU. That's right. LSU.
He had a great year in 2019,
Okay.
like crazy good year, right? Which that's their national championship season.
Right.
Then he's been injured the last 2 years, or like he's had some injuries. He hasn't played as well, so there's some questions there about him. But you know, I think Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati is a possibility. Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame, Joe. I mean, all the scouts around the league think the Jets love him. They think so. I mean, he's a guy I've gotten a lot of people say they think he's going to take him at 4. So, and I think they still could because like you're going to need 2 safeties. So if Whitehead's playing low, he could play high. I mean, I'll say this, Joe. Like I know the Jamal Adams comparison comes up, right?
Calvin Pryor as well.
Yeah, but this guy's not that. He's not the hard hitting safety down low. He's more of a ball hawk. He's more, you know, I think he had 8 interceptions, I want to say.
So he's more like he's an Ed Reed. You're telling me that he's an Ed Reed. He should only be.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's Ed Reed
of all time.
Yeah,
okay?
but
that kind of a player.
A player. Yeah, where he's gonna get interceptions. He's gonna play sideline to sideline and get interceptions. He's not gonna. Jamal Adams. I always used to tease Todd Bowles. I used to say, Todd, your best
pass rusher.
I said, your best linebacker is number 33.
Right.
You know, and,
you're right.
And I would chuckle. Like, yeah, he was a linebacker. He was a damn good linebacker, but he was a linebacker, right? So this is Kyle Hamilton. He can get his hands on the ball. He can play sideline to sideline. He's got good range. I'm not going to compare him to Ed Reed, but that type of player, that model of player. So I think, you know, it really is a question, like Saleh said, do you take a safety of 4? He's got to be a unicorn, was the term he used, right? It's got to be a guy you think this guy is an Ed Reed. This guy is someone who's going to change the organization. Because also, Joe, what you don't want to do, and it is draft him at 4, and then in 4 years we're going, well, you can't pay a safety.
Right. Of course.
Like, that drives you crazy, right? Like that's what the Giants are going through with Saquon. Well, you can't pay a running back, like, and like that's so he's got to be. You got to sort of look ahead, go like, can I project that this guy will be willing to give him a huge contract in 4 years, and you know he's got to be that kind of player.
Well, like I said, I think that the fan base, certainly me, will be very upset if they take this safety at 4. And I'll tell you, if they do, they better be right. And he better be either Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, or Ronnie Lott. If he's one of those guys,
low bar.
Even if he's Eric McMillan in his rookie year back in 1988 when he had a tremendous year, okay, he better be something along those lines, because I'm telling you right now, I could hear the moan all over Jets Nation if he's the 4th pick in the draft.
And I wonder, Joe, that's clearly out there, right? Everyone kind of knows. Someone at the combine said to me, goes, the fans aren't going to be happy if we take that safety. I said, no, they're not.
Nope.
And I wonder if Woody sometimes hears you guys. And I wonder if Woody says, hey, let's see if we can go in a different direction so we don't have a revolt on our hands.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I don't think I'd be too thrilled with him. All right. Again, we're talking, like I said, he better be one of those 3 guys. We're talking to Brian Costello, who does a great job covering the Jets for the New York Post. I want to get into the coach a little bit here, because I think you and I have the same feeling on him, and just a little bit on what happened with the quarterbacks that, you know, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. Let me just give my sponsors some love. I have to do this.
Absolutely.
You know how that works. Got to start with the Hackensack Brewing Company. You know the deal there. Located just 10 minutes off the George Washington Bridge, 30 seconds off Route 4, Hackensack's Fairmont neighborhood. We've done a couple live podcasts from the Hackensack Brewing Company. Maybe we'll bring Brian in for one of those.
There you go.
You live in Jersey. Maybe we'll do that. We've done a couple. We'll do some more as the weather gets better. You know the deal. The tap room's open from 4:30 to 10 Monday through Friday, 2 to 10 Saturday, 12 to 8 on Sundays. 78 Johnson Avenue in Hackensack. Go see my buddy Mike Jones, TJ, my son-in-law Andre. They'll take care of you. Tremendous place. Tell them Beningo sent you there. Also, we welcome back Beach Camera. My buddy Isaac over at Beach Camera. They're in business for over 30 years. They offer all the top brands, LG, Samsung, and Sony. Give Isaac a call, Beach Camera, 732-993-6385. Stop in 80 Carter Drive, Edison. It's in course in Jersey, and he'll save you some money. Use the code Joe B for $15 off your. That's easy for me to say. $15 off your order of $100 or more at beachcamera.com. Of course, Anita Tire, located in Westwood Avenue in Rivervale, New Jersey. See Johnny, my son Johnny. See Ari over there, and they'll take care of you. Anything for your car needs, anything for your service for your car, tires, and all of that. So check out Anita Tire again. Tell them I sent you. Westwood Avenue, Rivervale, New Jersey, and of course my buddy Kenny Zor and KZ Sports Marketing. He's helped me out a lot. We'll be having some more interviews courtesy of Kenny. We had Wesley Walker courtesy of Kenny last week, so we're working on a bunch more with that. Love to get Richard Todd on, Brian, and we worked on that. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Can I tell you my Richard Todd story?
You got? Oh, please. Is this like Serby, where
not quite
into the locker?
It involves Serby, but so this is back in like 2000, Joe. I got hired by the Post. I was 24 years old.
Right.
And I was working. We had a weekly magazine called Sports Week at the time. And one of my jobs.
I don't know why.
Yeah, it was brief. It was brief.
It must have been
a year long. It was about a year long. And so, but I was a 24-year-old. I was what we call a clerk. I was low man on the totem pole, right? So one of my jobs was doing a whatever happened to every week, coming up with one from New York sports. So I was like, I want to do, Richard Todd, whatever. He had been pretty much underground. So I tracked him down. He was working for Bear Stearns at the time. I want to say
Atlanta, right? In Georgia?
Yeah, Atlanta. Yeah. Tracked him down. He's like, I don't know. Why would I want to do this? I don't know. I'm like, come on. The fans curious where you are. So he's like, all right, I'll do it. So we sent a photographer down there. They take pictures of him. I do a phone interview with him. So I started asking him, I asked him, I think, what the pressure was like, replacing Joe Namath, being from Alabama.
Right.
He's like, I don't want to talk about that. And I said, well, Richard, what do you think we're going to talk about?
Right.
I'm like, I was like, we're going to talk about your career. And, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you're doing now, but I also want you to reflect on your career. He's like, oh man, the New York Post, it never changes. Serby, I should have never done this. And he, so we just had this contentious interview, but I wrote it, and it was, so yeah. And I thought, through the years about different stuff. We always do the Jets quarterbacks through the years, but I don't know where Richard is these days. I don't.
I think he's in Alabama. I've heard he's actually in Alabama now. Is what I've heard.
I don't ever see him at any Jets. The Jets have the signings and stuff like that. He seemed pretty angry still in 2000.
Well, look. Here's the bottom line on Richards. I always say nobody found the open linebacker better than Richard Todd. So
yeah,
I don't know if I'd say that to him if I was interviewing him, but
I don't think you would. Yeah. I was very young, Joe. I was very young when Richard Todd was a quarterback of the Jets. I was 6, 7 years old, but I can remember him throwing interceptions clear as day. Yeah, that's all I remember. And his stats, some of his stats, I'll look at the top 10 Jets quarterbacks and yardage and stuff. His stats are really good, except for that interception stat is always a little too high.
Well, he had two very good years, 1981 and 1982, when Joe Walton was his offensive coordinator. Joe Walton was a terrible head coach. How he got 7 years is mind-boggling, but whatever.
Yeah.
He was a terrible head coach, but he was a very good offensive coordinator. And the two best years Todd had, 81, they went 10-5-1. I think he threw 25 touchdowns to only about 13 interceptions that year. They lost that brutal playoff game to the Bills where he found Bill Simpson on the goal line to end the game. And then, of course, the strike year when, they make the big run to the AFC title game. They beat the Bengals, who were the defending AFC champions in Cincinnati. They beat the Raiders in that classic game in the LA Coliseum before 90-something thousand. And then, A.J. Dewey becomes a superstar, courtesy of Richard Todd. And he never recovered after that. Was it. He played one more year for the Jets. They went 7-9 when everybody thought they were going to the Super Bowl. And next thing you know, he got traded to New Orleans. So. Yeah, and that was the end. He came
back, Joe. It's funny because also when I was in that job, the Post used to have. I don't think it exists anymore, but the Post used to have this great library where they had all the clips. So you could go in there and you could look up Richard Todd, and it would pull up every art and the print articles in an envelope, everything that was written about Richard Todd. So I used to go through those. He came back. I want to say it was '86, Joe, in training camp with the Jets.
Did he? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it might have been '86.
Wow.
And the Post took a picture of him and Serby shaking hands in front of Hofstra.
Really?
Yeah, it was great.
That's a class. Serby's probably got that framed in his house somewhere. I would.
So if that happened today with Serby, where someone threw you in the locker, I can't even imagine the social media reaction and stuff. Because Serby's told that story before,
Oh yeah.
that was pretty rough on him. Like Jets fans came after him, and I think someone slashed his tires or something. Like, there was
Really?
stuff. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't
Jets
know
fans were
that.
upset. Jets fans were upset with him after that, and like now it'd be, oh my gosh, it'd be crazy.
Well, he probably also would have a lawsuit against whoever threw him into the locker too.
Yeah, yes, I think there would be a lawsuit. That's for sure. I think there was, Joe. I
Was
remember
there?
right. Yeah, I think he got thrown out or something. I think the judge probably read Serby and said, "Oh, this guy's right to throw you into the locker. You said Matt Robinson's better."
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find Serby to get him. Serby's very tough. When Serby wants you for something, he'll reach out to you. When you're trying to get
I'll tell
Serby,
him.
it's very difficult to do, Brian.
I'll tell him.
Tell him Beningo
I'll
wants
tell
him.
him.
Tell him to call me. We want to set something up here. We'll do a little interview with him.
Yeah, I'll tell him. I'll get him.
Please do that.
Yeah.
Talking to Brian Costello, New York Post, covers the Jets, of course. All right. First Zach Wilson, then Robert Saleh. Your thoughts right now on Wilson? I think Wilson's got a chance to be pretty good. I mean, I really do, Brian.
Yeah, I saw glimpses, Joe. You just need to see it more now. I think this is, like I talked about back then, this is just huge for Zach Wilson. Like, let's see the step he makes now. They've given him some better weapons. He's got 2 tight ends now. Hopefully Elijah Moore can stay on the field for him.
Please.
And Moore took about half a season to kind of figure things out. He came on midway through the year. So, he should get it from the jump now. The thing that stood out to me about Zach is he does things you can't teach. There's his movement skills, some of his crazy throws, outside the pocket throws. What he needs to learn now is kind of just playing quarterback. And I think that's, if he has good coaching, you can teach that, right? You can't teach a guy to roll to his left and throw 60 yards down the field. Zach can do that. So it reminds me in some ways of Josh Allen. His rookie year, you saw Josh Allen do some crazy things, but he did not play that well. But as the years have gone on, Josh Allen's gotten better and better at playing quarterback, and knowing when to run, knowing when to do the crazy stuff. And the thing that stood out to Joe after Zach came back at the last part of the year, he didn't turn the ball over as much. I've been watching. No. I go back and watch the season, and I'm kind of just in the first. I'm on the Titans game right now. He threw some really bad bad interceptions in the beginning of the year. That didn't happen at the end of the year. He got better, so that's promising. I think the jury's out. I'm not going to say he's going to be great. I'm not going to say he's not. We need to see more, but there was glimpses there that give you hope for sure.
And I think you mentioned Josh Allen. To me, there's got to be more. And I know Josh Allen's a lot bigger than Zach is. I get all of that.
Yeah, he's not the same player. Yep.
They got to be more designed runs for this kid because he can run with the football. I mean, I need to see that a little bit. And there was none of that last year.
Yeah, it's funny. I asked about that one time, Joe, and they kind of said, well, he's not Lamar Jackson. All right, he's not Lamar Jackson, but you still could do some stuff with him. And I do think the size, they worry about him getting out there too much, but he can be smart. He can slide. And, I agree with you. I think a little bit more of zone read stuff. They did some of that by the goal line. I can remember a 2-point conversion they did early in the season with that. I think I definitely think they should do that more.
No doubt. All right, the coach. Let's talk about Saleh because I think we're kind of on the same page. I'm very concerned. I want to be wrong. I mean, I wanted Saleh to be the coach. I mean, I loved him when I watched him on the sideline in San Francisco as a defensive coordinator. Yeah, I thought, man, this guy's really got something. When they looked like they were going to lose him, when they let him leave the building, I thought, here we go again. But they bring him. They do sign him. A lot of concerns. 4-13. The defense was terrible. He comes off to me a little bit as just too nice a guy to his players. Your overall thoughts on Saleh?
Yeah, well, he's definitely not a drill sergeant, Joe. He doesn't really yell on the field. That was something that stood out to me in training camp. Was this guy just kind of he doesn't believe in that. He treats them, like adults, I guess you'd say. He just doesn't yell that much, and I don't necessarily think that's a terrible thing, but it just stood out to me. Even Bowles and Gase. Neither one of them were screamers either, but they would stop practice sometimes in training camp, make them run sprints or something. Especially Todd used to do that a lot. Didn't see any of that. Joe Judge kind of got made fun of last year with the laps and things like that. There's nothing like that at going with Jets. I think he's a really effective communicator. I think he's very good at communicating his vision and his message, which is something they've lacked for a while. I think since Rex, it's been hard to identify exactly what the direction the head coach wanted to go in with this team. So I give him credit there. He needs players, Joe. I mean, I know you and I argue about players versus coach before, but like that defense last year, if you started drafting players off that defense, Quinnen Williams and CJ Mosley were the only ones you really draft.
Quincy Williams is pretty good. I thought Quincy Williams is a pretty good player.
Quincy Williams is a nice, like, kind of unexpected. He's not, but like if you're taking a draft of the AFC East, he's not one of the first two linebackers you're taking.
Well,
right?
No.
They need to upgrade the talent. I think they did with the cornerback and the safety. Let's see what they do in the draft. Add some more. And I will say they played better down the stretch defensively. That middle part of the season was oh my gosh, it was going to come off the rails. But they stopped the bleeding and did some better things. I think in terms of X's and O's, there's still a lot of question marks there. But I do think I think the players like him. I think he does a good job of motivating them. And I thought he managed some difficult circumstances last year in terms of the quarterback situation kind of got murky in the middle of the year. But yeah, again, just like Wilson, the jury's out, Joe. The thing is now, you mentioned Joe Walton before, right? Joe Walton got 7 years.
Unbelievable.
How long would Joe Walton have gotten in this climate?
He would have been fired after the Cleveland playoff.
After Cleveland, so he would have had, so that would have been 4 years.
Right.
But like you look at the last three Giants coaches got fired after 2 years.
Yeah.
Gase got fired after 2 years. Like it's quick here, and not just here, all around the NFL.
Oh, you're right.
So I'm just curious how much patience the Johnson brothers have to wait and see, what happens. Do they give him more time? Do they give him 4 or 5 years to try to turn this around, or is it going to and that goes for the GM too, Joe, right? The GM's already on the clock, but like the feeling I have gotten from the organization is that 2023 is the year they've said, okay, that's when we should be in contention. Like,
but that's what he said too at the Senior Bowl, and that bothered me too. I mean, he was he was trying to cover his rear end. Okay, well, look, we're going to go 6-11 this year, so but we made improvements. I mean, I can't buy that, Brian.
I think that's the way it's gonna go, Joe. I think when Saleh got hired, they said, all right, it's a 3-year rebuild. Right, and we'll turn around 3 years because that's what they did in San Francisco. So that's kind of the whole model.
Right.
But like Joe, I mean, I wrote this yesterday in the Post. The Jets are better than they were a week ago, but holy cow, the AFC is just insane right now. Like it's everywhere you look.
Well, let me say one thing, and I agree with you. Look, I mean, Russell Wilson now is in Denver. You got Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. By the way, Baker Mayfield stinks, and so does Carson Wentz. They both are terrible. With that said, we'll be that as it may. But I look at the division, and clearly Buffalo is the class of the AFC East. If they don't get to the Super Bowl this year, to me, they should be in the Super Bowl this year. They're probably the best team in the conference, probably. Okay.
Yep.
But New England, to me, and I understand he got the greatest coach of all time. He did it with mirrors last year, getting to the playoffs. Mac Jones is not that good. If he was being coached by somebody else, I don't know how good Mac Jones is. I don't know how good Miami is. Miami's a disaster. They got rid of a very good coach in Brian Flores. I'm not sold on Tua as, being this whirlwind quarterback. I don't see why the Jets, maybe not Buffalo, but why they couldn't get past the other two teams in the division. Is that crazy to say?
Well, I think that you have to look at the whole schedule though, Joe, right? So if you want to say the Jets split with the Dolphins and split with the Patriots, would that, like you say?
Well, that'd be nice to beat them. They haven't won a division game in 20 years,
Right. So that'd be okay. So that we give them 2 wins. Say they get swept by Buffalo. Now you go to the AFC North. They play this year. So now you got Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson,
and Mitch Trubisky.
And then Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looks like the weak team.
Pittsburgh, right?
But Pittsburgh has Mike Tomlin as their head coach, right?
They're always, I know.
So that's going to be tough.
Well versed.
And they play the NFC North. So you get Rodgers,
right?
Kirk Cousins, whatever you think of him, he's not chopped liver. Chicago
right.
and Detroit, they should be able to beat those two teams.
They
Or
got
at
them
least
at home too. I think the Bears and the Lions are home games as
I
well.
think you're right. Yep.
Yeah.
And then they play the Jaguars, and they play the Broncos and with Russell Wilson, and then they play the Seahawks in Seattle. So it's tough, right? Like,
No,
I mean,
I know.
you start going through it, you're like, okay, I can see 6 wins. Can I
Right.
see 9? Can I see 10?
Right.
Like, no, you can't. So it's just, I feel bad for you, Joe. I do. I feel bad for Jets fans because I think they're better, but I just don't know. I just don't think they're on the level to compete with some of those teams right now, some of the better teams in the league. And you're right, the division is not crazy. It's more the conference. It's just has just gotten it's just unbelievable right now. And Devontae Adams going to the Raiders.
Yeah.
It's just tough right now.
Yeah.
If you were in the NFC East, you'd have a lot better chance.
The NFC. If you're in the NFC, period. I mean, you look at the NFC right now. I mean, Brady's back in Tampa. You got Aaron Rodgers there without Devontae. He can't be happy about Devontae Adams leaving. I'll tell you that. But that's whatever.
Yep.
There's not. Yeah, the NFC East. Forget about it. I mean, Dallas should win that division by default. But it's pretty bad. It's going to be very difficult, though. I'm telling you, Brian. The fan base. I know how I'm going to be. The fan base is not going to be happy if they only win 6 games this year. I'm going to tell you right now. Not going to be happy about it.
I know, and I don't blame you guys. It's been too long. It's been too long. They've been a bad team for a long time now, and people. I know, Joe. I think we've had this conversation before back on the radio. It was like you said, well, people ask me sometimes, do you want them to win or lose, right? I don't care if the Jets win or lose, right? I want interesting. My job is about being interesting, making sure people read my stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? Losing ain't interesting anymore. There was a time with this team where, like 2011, 2012, the losing was interesting because they were supposed to be good and then they went bad. But now we're 12 years in with no playoffs. It's like, and I haven't covered a winning season since 2015. You're like, yes, absolutely. Winning would be a lot more interesting with this team. So I hear you. I understand the frustration. It's really Zach Wilson is the guy. Like if he makes a huge leap this year, then things maybe look differently than how they do right now. It's really going to be about him, like it usually is.
We talked about it off the air again. Brian Costello of New York Post. And I thank you so much for giving me the time, Brian. It's always a pleasure. Meaningful football late in the season. I mean, I think that at the very least, it can't be Halloween and the season's over.
Absolutely. I wrote that yesterday, Joe, and I said in the graphic, right? When CBS and NBC and Fox, ESPN throw up the graphic on the second week of December. Here are the division leaders. Here are the wild card leaders. Here are the teams in the hunt. To be in the hunt, you usually need 5-6 wins when you get to December. Jets have to be there this year. That has to be what happens. I'm not saying they have to make the playoffs, but they have to. Like you're absolutely right. Joe, do you know the last time this team won a game in September?
The last time they won a game in September, I probably, if I start to really put my brain on, I could figure it out. I would say it's the year where they everybody was going. They went 5-11 with Bowles. They started out 3-2, and everybody was delirious because they were only supposed to win like one game.
It was 2018. It was Sam Darnold's first game in Detroit, right?
Remember? That's right. Right. Oh, that's the last one, that Monday night game?
Yes.
Wow.
They've lost every game in September since then. That's so now you're talking about you're starting 0-3 or 0-4 out of the gate every year.
Wow.
Like that has to stop. We don't know who they're playing when yet. We'll find out in May. But man, the NFL schedule makers could really do solid, and the Jets are solid if they gave them, the Jaguars the first week.
No, you know what they're going to get. Here's opening day. The Bills in Buffalo.
Yes, of course. No, probably no. Joe, my luck going to be Bills here, and then the last game of the year will be in Buffalo when it's 15 below zero.
Right. They'll play. Right. They'll play the Bill. Right. The Bills opening day, and then week 2 they go to Denver to play the Broncos.
Yes. Yeah. So it's hard every year when you start 0-3, 0-4.
No, you're right.
And you're digging out of that hole right from the start. And guys start go, okay, do you feel like coming to work? Do you feel like doing it? So, that to me is huge, Joe. It's just one of these years this team has to get off of, and that season you mentioned, 2017, right? There's a different feel to it as well. If you're 3-2, 5-5, and then things fall apart at the end. They fall apart at the end, but at least you're invested. You're into it. Into November and December. These seasons, last year you knew it was over in October last year. The year before you knew it was over like October 1st when they lost that Thursday night game against Denver. It was over.
Right.
It's like every year it feels like they're playing. You're talking about the Jets have the number 3 draft pick if the season ends right now. Like some year you're gonna say, hey, if the season ended right now, the Jets would be in the playoffs. Like it's crazy the looking at the draft standings in week 2 every year.
It's really brutal. Before we go, and again, I thank you for giving me the time, Brian, today. I got to tell you, I was stunned with the Deshaun Watson move. Yeah, not so much that Cleveland got him, because like I said, I think Mayfield stinks. I mean, he's probably going to wind up with the Colts, please. I don't think he's any good. But what they gave up for a guy that has the kind of baggage that this guy has. Yeah. I mean, I understand he's not going to jail, but there's still, these accusations by 22 women. Yeah. I mean, they gave up 3 first-round picks. They gave up whatever they gave up, and gave him, all the money. I was shocked what Cleveland did there, really.
Yeah, I was shocked, Joe, and bothered by it, to be honest with you. Like, it doesn't sit well with me, and I'm not sure how Jets fans would have reacted. Obviously, they have Zach, so it wasn't a question. But if they didn't have Zach, if Jets fans would have wanted him or not. The most appalling thing to me, Joe, though, of all of it is, they gave him a huge signing bonus.
Yep.
So that they could make his 2022 salary $1 million. And the reason they did that is if he gets suspended now for 6 games, it's going to cost him $50,000 a game, right? Like, come on, man. Like, this guy has to pay some price. 22 women, something happened, right? Like something happened.
Right.
And so at the I feel like the lowest price he could pay for this is having, losing a decent amount of salary and losing a half of season or whatever it is. The Browns purposely did this where, $50,000 a week is nothing for this guy. That just bothers me. And then they guaranteed the whole contract, Joe. So, and I'm sure I haven't seen the contract yet. Usually the way NFL contracts works is if you get suspended, they can void all your guaranteed money. The Jets did that with Darren Lee to get when he got suspended.
Oh my God.
Sorry to bring up that, but I have a feeling that does not exist in this contract. Because they have to be worried about another woman coming forward and pressing criminal charges at some point and him actually having to go to trial or something. So, yeah, I just find the whole thing so distasteful, and it's clearly just prioritizing winning over everything else, and no morality there. I've seen some Browns fans, say some things. I saw Peter King had a good column this morning about it. I'm just, it's a tough one to swallow, I think. And I really feel bad for the women that have stepped forward, and they have to now see him get $230 million. It's just crazy.
Unbelievable. Really unbelievable. Brian, I can't thank you enough. Really appreciate you giving me the time. Brian Costello of the New York Post. We'll talk to you again, bro. We'll get you again, maybe right around draft time. We'll do something. I got Marty Lyons coming on before the draft, but we'll do something. What we'll do is probably after the draft, we'll get you on and get your feeling. We'll break down what you think the Jets did there.
We'll get you on Gangs All Here again, Joe, on my podcast.
Let me know.
We'll get you on again. Always love to have you, but great talking to you, Joe. Miss our conversations on the radio every week, so awesome to catch up.
Thanks, Brian. And again, the great Brian Costello of the New York Post. Again, want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. And all my sponsors, Beach Camera, Hackensack Brewing Company, KZ Sports Marketing, and Anita Discount Tires. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week. I'll be back on Friday for my normal Friday rant. Got plenty to scream about. So we'll talk to you again on Friday. All the love, everybody. And Brian Costello, thank you again.